In the fall of 1971, a quiet Arizona suburb was shaken by the inexplicable disappearance of the Langley family. One night, they vanished, without warning, without a trace. Dinner was still warm on the table, lights left on, doors unlocked. It was as if they had stood up in the middle of living their lives and simply evaporated. The mystery haunted the neighborhood for decades, whispers trailing through generations. But as time dulled curiosity and the headlines faded, the Langley case became little more than a ghost story. That is, until 2023. Claire Rowe, a freelance photographer grieving her mother's recent passing, wandered into an estate sale on a sun-bleached street in Phoenix. She wasn't looking for anything specific. For her, these sales were a quiet ritual, a space where memory lingered in forgotten objects. The house was tired, its beige paint peeling, its lawn brittle and sunburnt. Yet something pulled her in. Inside, the air was thick with age and lemon-scented cleaner. Dust danced in the filtered light as Claire drifted room to room. The living room held nothing of note. Dated furniture, water-stained tables, a TV likely dormant since the Reagan era. But in the back room, she found it. A dusty Polaroid land camera, Model 210, just like the one her mother used on road trips. It was nestled in a milk crate beneath cracked frames and rusted tins. What made her fingers hesitate was the tape. A strip of yellowing adhesive sealed the film cartridge inside, with a faint warning scrawled in almost illegible ink. Do not develop. It should have been a joke, or paranoia, or nothing. But Claire couldn't walk away. She paid $5 for the camera and left, clutching it as if it might answer questions she didn't yet know how to ask. That night, in her quiet guest house filled with books and succulents and the soft hum of solitude, she stared at the camera under a pool of lamplight. Her tea went cold. Her thoughts circled. Claire wasn't someone who left things undone. She replaced the batteries, cleaned the lens. Peeling the tape made her stomach twist, but curiosity won. The shutter clicked. The camera whirred. The first image was nothing, just black, overexposed or expired. So was the second, but the third, her breath caught. It was a dining room, mid-century table, 4 plates, roast chicken, green beans, a tipped-over child's cup, the contents bleeding into a crayon-colored placemat. It was like opening a time capsule sealed in dread. Claire leaned in. In the photo's lower corner, half obscured by shadow, was a hand, white-knuckled, gripping the table. She felt her pulse surge. Another click, another photo. A hallway now, yellow walls, portraits of smiling faces. But the angle was off. Too close, too fast, as if someone had been moving when they took it. The final image seeped out like a secret. The same dining room, now eerily empty. Plates gone, chairs overturned, a glass light fixture cracked and tilting. And in the doorway leading outside, a small silhouette, a child, face turned away. It wasn't just that the photos were old. It was the way they felt, urgent, haunted, unfinished. Claire's chest tightened. She turned the camera over, looking for a label. There it was, faded but clear. Langley, 428 Sycamore Street. A chill moved through her. She knew that name, that address. Not from history books. From a podcast, an episode she'd half listened to a year ago about a family who vanished in the 70s. Their case never solved. Their house never resold. And suddenly, it wasn't just a camera anymore. Claire stared at the last photo on her table. The child in the image stood barefoot, but the shadow stretching toward them wasn't their own. She didn't sleep that night. The camera sat on her kitchen table like a relic, and the 3 photographs, laid out in silence, told a story no one was meant to see. The sky outside seemed to darken by the hour, as if withholding something terrible until the precise moment it decided to be seen. Claire sat cross-legged on her couch, the glow from her laptop screen flickering against her face. She had a dozen browser tabs open, each filled with frantic searches. Langley family disappearance. Phoenix 1971 cold case. Vanished mid-meal. Sycamore Street mystery. And, most chillingly, Polaroid evidence. It didn't take long. Halfway down the search results, a link from a true crime archive caught her attention. Echo Cole Files, a collection maintained by retired journalists and cold case investigators. The title alone made her stomach clench. The Langley House, the family that vanished mid-meal. Claire opened the article. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled. The Langley family had been ordinary. A working-class household trying to make ends meet in the desert heat of 1970s Arizona. Edward, a lineman for Salt River Project. Clara, a part-time church secretary. 2 children, Beth and Sammy, 5 and 7. There were no criminal records, no debt, no custody battles. Just a family. Their last known movements were mundane. A grocery store visit around 4:30 p.m. A neighbor spotting Edward watering the front lawn an hour later. By 8 p.m., the lights were still on, but no one answered the door. By morning, they were gone. Claire's breath quickened. The description of the house matched the photographs she had developed. Food untouched, door ajar. Eerie stillness thick in the air. And then came the twist, a note buried at the end of the report. Among the household items cataloged at the scene was a Polaroid land camera, Model 210, logged as inactive. The film compartment was reportedly empty, but it hadn't been. Claire now knew that. The report stated the camera disappeared from police custody in the 1980s, likely during a departmental purge. No chain of custody, no follow-up. Forgotten. Claire pulled away from the screen, her hands trembling. The camera in her possession was the camera, the one logged and discarded. And if the film had never been developed until now, it meant something deeply disturbing. Whoever took those photos had been in the house after the family vanished. The next morning, Claire drove to the Phoenix Public Records Office. The building was sterile and echoey, filled with fluorescent lights and vinyl tile. She signed in and requested microfilm access to the Langley case files. The woman at the front desk eyed her carefully. "Reporter? Photographer?" Claire replied. "Personal project." The woman nodded once and disappeared into the back, returning minutes later with a worn box labeled Langley E. Disappearance case 719204. Claire slipped into a viewing booth, slid in the first reel, and started scrolling. Headlines blurred by. Family vanishes from suburban home. Dinner still warm. Where are the Langleys? She stopped cold at a black and white photo from September 7th, 1971. It showed the dining room, the same dining room from her Polaroid. But something was off. The angle was nearly identical, the light similar. Yet in the official photo, the edge of the table was cropped, exactly where, in her photo, the hand had been gripping. Her heart pounded as she read the police report. Certain lines were redacted. One entry caught her eye. Film recovered in camera was blank. Possible light exposure. No further analysis requested. Camera deemed non-evident. That didn't sit right. Claire had studied film durability. Even degraded rolls could yield shadows, shapes. Someone had dismissed the camera too easily, or lied. That night, Claire called Dominic Tran, a forensic technician she'd befriended while filming a cold case documentary years ago. He owed her favors. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. "I'm literally slicing pizza over the sink. What's up?" "I need you to check a name. Raul Drios pause." "That's random." "It's connected. I found photos, unlogged ones." Silence, then a breath. "You're serious?" "I have the original camera." "All right," he said. "I'll check, quietly. But if it's active..." "It's not. It's cold. But not for long." Later, Claire sat staring at the third photo, the one with the child. She pulled out a magnifier and studied the edges. The shadow behind the child wasn't furniture. It wasn't smoke. It was a figure. Tall, angular, human-shaped, but wrong. The proportions were off, arms too long, elbows too low. The head was too large, slightly tilted. Not motion blur, but intention. Her spine went cold. She reached for her recorder, something she hadn't used in months. Log entry 1, Langley House, Polaroid film recovered, 3 photographs developed. First, full meal, hand visible. Second, hallway, off kilter. Third, empty room, child in doorway, unidentified figure present. Film appears original, no timestamps. Comparison to 1971 evidence confirms layout. Someone else was in the house. Investigation initiated. She clicked off the recorder. For the first time, Claire felt like the camera was no longer just watching. It was watching back. The next morning, she didn't leave her apartment. The 3 Polaroids sat inside an archival box, sealed in protective sleeves. Still, she found herself returning to them, over and over. And every time, that third photo seemed to shift, just a little, as if resisting stillness. By midday, Claire was scanning them into her laptop. She adjusted contrast, enhanced shadows. She didn't fabricate anything, just clarified what was already there. The figure became clearer. Male, perhaps. Broad shoulders. Arms unnaturally rigid at his sides. A long neck, and what might have been a mouth, slightly open. He wasn't posing. He'd been caught by accident. A fleeting specter at the edge of ruin. She noted that the timestamp metadata was blank, as expected. But other clues remained. Dust on the lens. Light flares. Streaks on the film. It was taken just before sundown, the final light before darkness claimed the house. She opened a new folder on her desktop and began uploading everything. Langley Photographic Evidence. RAW. At noon, Claire's phone buzzed. It was Dominic. "I ran the name you gave me," he said. "Raul Dreyfus. There's no trace, no license, no arrests. Not even a DMV mention in the 1970s. What about property records? Anything tied to Sycamore Street." "Just one hit," Dominic replied. "A deed transfer in 1981, 428 Sycamore. From county repossession to a trust called Desert Willow Holdings. Trustee on file, R. Darius." Claire's pulse surged. "So he took over the Langley house?" "Looks that way. Shell trust, probably. Desert Willow Holdings dissolved in '83. No tax records, no filings. It vanished." Claire gripped the edge of her desk. If this man orchestrated the disappearance and then acquired the property, this wasn't just suspicious. It was premeditated. "That's not even the weirdest part," Dominic said. He paused. "I checked the forensics log from 1971. Film marked as damaged, declared blank. But guess who signed off?" Claire braced. "Detective First Class Vernon Dreyfus." Her skin prickled. "You think they were related?" "Small department, same last name. Would have been easy to fudge paperwork, especially if he wanted something gone. I have a scan of Vernon's signature. Want it?" "Send everything," Claire said. That night, with her blinds drawn, Claire arranged the photographs under a magnifier. She leaned in close to the third photo, the child and the looming man. The hallway mirror caught her eye. A reflection. Not the child, not the figure. A third presence, a warped face close to the mirror, vacant eyes watching. She staggered back. No matter the angle, it stayed. Too high to be a child, too real to be a trick of light. She scribbled in her notebook, third figure visible in mirror. Not child, possibly photographer. If Langley family gone, who took final photo? She circled it, twice. 2 days later, Claire found herself parked outside 428 Sycamore. She told herself it was coincidence, a wrong turn. But it wasn't. The house stood exactly as it had in her photos. White paint flaking, shrubs strangling the porch. A weathered for sale sign clung to the fence, half buried in ivy. She walked the perimeter, camera at her hip. Wide-angle shots, kitchen window, cracked walkway. The silence was suffocating. She slipped through the unlocked side gate. The backyard was a ruin. Weeds as tall as her chest. A rusted swing set leaned against the fence, one chain broken. The other swayed gently. She raised her camera, but froze. She felt it. A presence. She spun around. Nothing. Just dry grass and cicadas. But the sense of being watched crawled over her skin. She backed out, returned to her car, and locked the doors. In the rear-view mirror, a curtain moved. Back at home, Claire zoomed into the window in her photos. Behind the curtain, a face. Pale, wide-eyed, young. A girl. Not Beth. Not anyone from the photos. She wrote in her notebook. Girl's face in window. Unknown. Who is she? Why is she inside? That night, Claire returned to an old forum she used in college. She posted anonymously, cropped, watermarked images, and asked a single question. Has anyone connected the Langley case to Vernon Dreyfus? She didn't expect an answer. By morning, she had a private message. From Eyes Open 1976. I grew up near Sycamore. I knew the Langleys. I also knew Vernon. You're not wrong to dig, but be careful. Others tried. A journalist in '85, a student. They quit or disappeared. This isn't a story. It's a burial site. I'll meet you, but only in public. Daylight only. Claire typed back, name a place. They met at June's Breakfast House, a worn diner off Interstate 17, filled with truckers and retirees. Safe, bright. Still, Claire's stomach churned. At 10:17, the bell chimed. A man in his 50s entered, army jacket, wary eyes. His face bore the weight of someone who'd spent decades not being believed. Claire? She stood. Name's Thomas Bell, he said, sliding into the booth. Used to live 3 doors down from the Langleys. He looked around. You're not a cop? Number no FBI. He nodded. Good. Cops had their shot. They blew it. They ordered coffee. He didn't speak again until the waitress left. I still remember that night, he said. September 3rd, '71. I was 10. Our backyard backed up to theirs. I was looking for our cat when I saw someone on the Langley porch. Thought it was Edward. But then he stepped into the light. Thomas hesitated. It wasn't Edward. Claire leaned forward. What did he look like? You ever see someone who just doesn't belong? Not by what they're doing, but how they move. He wasn't right. Too slow, too staged, like he was pretending to be human. Claire's mouth was dry. How long did you see him? 10 seconds, maybe. Then he closed the door. Lights went out. House stayed dark. Did you tell anyone? My dad. He said I was being dramatic. Said the Langleys probably went on a trip. The police came. I told them. They didn't write it down. One of them patted my head and said I had an active imagination, told me to stay quiet. Claire laid the digitized photos on the table. I found these. From the camera. The one from the scene. Thomas stared at them. The dining room, the hallway, the child, and the looming figure. Then, the mirror. He exhaled sharply. Jesus, that's not Edward Langley. Claire nodded slowly. That's someone else, maybe the man you saw. Thomas didn't respond. He just kept staring, as if the memory was no longer something he remembered, but something he was watching happen all over again. Thomas tapped the photo gently. That's not a reflection, he said. Look at the height. The eyes are level with the hallway trim. That person is standing in the wall. Claire blinked. What do you mean? Behind the mirror, he explained. That part of the house had a crawl space. I remember when the Langleys had plumbing redone around 1970. My dad helped. The mirror's built into the drywall, but there's room back there. Claire leaned in. So someone could have been hiding. Thomas nodded grimly. That house was built cheap and fast, 50s construction. It's full of crawl tunnels and hollow wall gaps, like a honeycomb. Claire's stomach twisted. The child in the photo hadn't just been in danger. They'd been watched. Do you know anything about Vernon Dreyfus? She asked softly. Thomas's expression darkened. Haven't heard that name in years. He was the lead detective, Claire said. Signed off on the film as blank. Later bought the house through a shell trust. Thomas's jaw clenched. Doesn't surprise me. Dreyfus was dirty. Everyone knew it, but no one dared say it out loud. He was obsessed with the case. Spent more time in that house than anyone. My dad said he kept going back, after hours, when the case was already closed. A chill moved across Claire's skin. Why? Thomas shrugged, then added, people saw lights on. Parked car with lights off. Some even said he lived there for a while. Secretly. Claire looked down at the photos, then back up. Then who's in the house now? Thomas didn't answer. Back at home, Claire uploaded the interview, filing it alongside her evidence. She zoomed in on the mirror image, digitally enhanced and sharpened. It wasn't just a moment caught in time, it was a surveillance angle. What if the house itself had never been empty? What if it was still watching? She hit record. Log entry 2. Interview with Thomas Bell. Eyewitness from 1971 confirms presence of unidentified male at Langley home the night of the disappearance. Description matches figure in third photo. Crawl space behind mirror suggests additional hidden observer. Next step. Re-enter 428 Sycamore. Document interiors. Investigate crawl space. Attempt contact with current occupant, if any. Claire closed her laptop, her heart pounding. She packed gloves, flashlight, crowbar, and her camera. She told herself this wasn't breaking in. It was uncovering truth. As dusk settled, she parked 2 blocks away, slipped into dark jeans and a hoodie, and moved silently through the neighborhood. The Langley house loomed like a bruise, shadowed, neglected, broken. The porch light had long since died. She circled to the side gate. Unlocked. Slipping through, she crouched by the rear window, the one from the second Polaroid. The screen was rusted. She pried it loose and slid the glass upward with care. Unlocked. The window groaned. Claire climbed inside. The dining room was colder than the desert evening outside. The air felt stagnant, sealed off from time. She flicked on her flashlight. The room was just as she remembered, though stripped bare. The table was gone. Plates gone. Just a clean outline of tile where the life of a family had once stood. She crept into the hallway. Every step creaked. Each photo on the wall was a relic. Edward, Clara, Beth, and Sammy. Beth in her blue dress with daisy buttons, exactly as described in the police report. She moved past the child's room, pink wallpaper, cartoon stickers, still air, and stopped. The mirror, oval-shaped, black wooden frame, clouded. This was where the reflection had been caught. She reached out, cold glass, knocked, hollow. She stepped back, a faint seam. She pressed. One corner shifted. The panel came free with a quiet pop. Behind it, blackness. A crawl space. Gloves on, flashlight in hand, she slid inside on her stomach. It was tight, 3 feet at most. Her elbows scraped insulation as she pulled herself forward. 6 feet in, the passage split. Hard right. She turned the beam. There, a cot, metal, blanket stiff with time. A crate served as a table. On it, a lighter, a water bottle, a torn comic book, and a Polaroid. Face down. Claire reached forward, hand trembling. The image showed Beth Langley. Eyes swollen, cheeks streaked with tears. Her hands were tied. This photo had been taken after the family disappeared. She turned it over. In faded ink. She still cries, but not for long. Panic surged. She killed her light. Listened. Breathing, not hers. Shallow, raspy, close. She backed out fast, scraping elbows and knees. She burst into the hallway, gasping. The panel snapped back into place. Something behind it scratched, soft, deliberate. She grabbed her bag, climbed out the window. Ran. That night, she laid the new Polaroid on her pillow. Still shaking. She recorded again. Log 3, evidence recovered, crawl space behind the hallway mirror, Polaroid image of Beth Langley in distress. Rope bindings visible. Message implies ongoing captivity. Indicates at least one family member survived post-disappearance. Crawl space recently inhabited. Cot, water, comic. Breathing heard while inside. Returning with backup. Bringing Thomas. She locked every window. Didn't sleep. She replayed that sound again and again. The low, steady rasp. Not fear. Not animalistic. Human. The photo lay under her. Lamp. Beth, bound and crying. Claire had enhanced the image in Lightroom. The child's face haunted her, but behind her, barely visible, was something else. A metallic curve. A camera lens. Someone had taken a picture of the person taking the picture. At sunrise, she called Thomas. "I need you to meet me. 10 a.m. sharp." "You okay?" "Number, but I found where they were kept, and I wasn't alone." "Send the address," he said. "I'll bring a pry bar." They met at a gas station, parked behind a shuttered dry cleaner, and walked in silence. Claire carried her camera, gloves, flashlight, recorder, and a new tool, a handheld meter Dominic had sent overnight. Not for radiation, for electromagnetic anomalies. "I don't want to be surprised again," she told Thomas. "You won't," he said. "You're not alone now." They entered through the window. The house was colder. The air rank with mildew and the must of stale insulation. Claire led him to the mirror. "This is it," she whispered. "Where it begins." Thomas pried off the panel. The space opened like a throat. "You really went in there?" She nodded. "And I wasn't alone." He clicked on his flashlight. Together they entered. She pointed to the cot. "The comic, the Polaroid." Thomas read the back. "She still cries," he murmured. "Jesus." He sniffed the air. "There's something else. Do you smell that?" Claire nodded. "Yeah, and I still don't know what it is." What neither of them said, but both felt, was that the house wasn't done. It was waiting. Thomas crept farther into the crawl space, the narrow tunnel bending sharply to the left. He shone his flashlight ahead, and froze. "Claire," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "There's more." Claire pulled herself beside him, heart hammering. What the light revealed stopped her breath. Boxes, stacked 2 high, 3 wide. Each box perfectly arranged, nearly blocking the path forward. Someone had used this space as a secret archive. Thomas slid one box out with care. Inside, dozens of film cartridges. Vintage, unopened. Each one meticulously labeled in tight, spidery handwriting. September 1971. Hallway, not developed. October 1971. Girl in blue, good framing. 1972. Teaching room. 1974. Broken doll. 1979. Watcher in mirror. Claire's voice trembled. These weren't taken by the Langley family. They were taken of them, and after. Thomas opened the next box. Polaroids, developed, curled with age, dozens. Some were of Beth, others of Sammy. One showed Clara, bound to a chair, her wrists zip-tied, eyes closed, mouth taped. Another showed all 4 family members, standing stiffly in the dining room, posed. The date scratched into the photo's border. April 1972. 7 months after they'd vanished. Claire flipped through them, horror mounting. The backgrounds changed, concrete walls, metal doors, bunker lighting. One photo showed Beth beside an older woman, both in matching blue dresses. Beth's eyes were blank. Another image. A wooden cabinet lined with cameras. Dozens. Each pointed toward a solitary chair at the center. A stage, a studio. Thomas shook his head slowly. Whoever did this, they didn't just take the Langleys, they used them. They opened a third box, cassette tapes. Reel to reel. Labeled in the same hand. Session 4. Obedience. Beth learns the mirror game. Clara interview. She cries again. Claire's stomach turned. They documented everything. She snapped photos of every box, labeled and logged them all. Then she paused. What if the crawl space connects somewhere else? Thomas scanned the wall. There, that side lines up with the garage. Could be another entry point. They backed out carefully, moved into the garage. The air reeked of mold and rust. The back wall looked uneven, the paint applied hastily. Thomas ran his fingers along the molding. "Help me." Together they pressed. With a soft pop, a hidden panel released. Behind it, a narrow compartment, and in its center, a camera mounted on a tripod. A red recording light glowed. Live. Claire's chest seized. The wire trailed to a live outlet. Fully powered. Thomas stepped back. Someone's been here, recently. Claire touched the camera's power button. The light died. They'd been watched. Their entire time inside the house, recorded. They ran. No photos, no more searching. Back at Claire's apartment, she secured everything, backed up files, labeled folders, encrypted drives. But nothing quieted the feeling that she was still being watched. She didn't open the footage until dawn. 12 video files, all recent. The most recent, dated 2 nights ago, showed her entering the house, crawling into the crawl space, leaving again in a panic. Then another file. She and Thomas returning. Faces clear, voices audible. Earlier files were worse. One from 3 weeks ago showed a woman, blonde, early 20s, hiking gear. Entered through the same window. She moved room to room, then vanished behind the mirror. Static cut in. When it returned, she was in a chair, mouth moving, eyes wide, no sound, 6 minutes missing, another file, a hallway, empty, but the angle shifted, slowly, as if the camera was moving itself. Then the mirror, 2:03 a.m., a flicker behind the glass, not a reflection. Hands, small, pale, pressed against the inside of the mirror. Claire slammed her laptop shut. An hour later, she met Thomas in a park. "I've seen the videos," she said, handing him a USB. "He's still watching the house, maybe not always, but recently." Thomas looked ill. "This is more than obsession. This is ritual." Claire nodded. "I want to go public, but not yet. I need proof, more than photos." Thomas exhaled. "The Langleys, they were kind. They helped people, and now this. We can't leave it alone." Claire opened her notebook. "I don't think Beth died. I think she survived, maybe even had a child, and that child is still there." That night, Claire posted again to the cold case forum. No context, just a blurred image of the hallway Polaroid. "We see you now, and we have your film." 5 hours later, a reply. "Shuttered eyes, 1973. Then you know where it ends. Go back to the cellar, behind the waterline, under the crossbeam. One last roll remains." They returned the next morning. Masks, gloves, bolt cutters. No hesitation. The house greeted them like it was expecting them. Straight to the garage. A copper line ran across the lower wall. Beneath it, soft wood. Claire pried it open. Inside, a cloth bundle. Inside that, a sealed film roll, a cracked pendant, a half-burned photo, part of a boy's shoe in a fireplace, and a note. Claire unfolded it. "To whoever finds this, we are still here. He won't let us leave. He makes us pose. He makes us lie. He says if we smile, he brings food. If we scream, he turns off the lights. I don't know if anyone remembers us, but if you do, find Beth." Clara Langley. Tears blurred Claire's eyes. Thomas rested a hand on her shoulder. "We found them," he whispered. "Even if it's too late." Claire shook her head. "Number. We're not done. If Beth's daughter is still here, he might be too, and that last roll might hold everything." They drove straight to Flagstaff. 4 hours north, pines replacing dust. Claire cradled the film like glass. Dominic didn't ask questions. He led them to room 3, a controlled, dark room. Claire's hands shook as she opened the cartridge. Polaroid 108. Rare, possibly unstable, but whole. She inserted it into a vintage camera, pressed the shutter. The first image was black. The second, Beth Langley. barefoot, wrapped in a blanket, a chain by her ankle, a fireplace behind her. She survived, Dominic whispered. Not just survived, Claire said. He raised her. Another photo, Beth at a table, a Polaroid camera before her, blank eyes, resigned. A third photo, a man's back, hunched at a fireplace, shelves behind him, IDs, passports. Claire studied the details, names, faces, then the next photo, Claire, in her car, 2 days ago, taken from above. Someone had followed her, watched her, documented her. You're next, Dominic said. No, Claire said. Beth is. She pulled out the Polaroid of the girl in the window, enhanced it, compared it. Same cheekbones, same eyes. It's her daughter, Claire whispered. She recorded the final entry. Log 4. Subject ID confirmed. Beth Langley survived into adulthood. New images show possible generational captivity. Evidence suggests systematic documentation of victims. Final image shows surveillance photo of myself. Conclusion: the man behind the camera is still alive, and Beth's child, likely born in captivity, is still inside the Langley house. She turned off the recorder. Dominic stared. What do we do? Claire didn't hesitate. We go back. When they returned, the sky hung low and gray. The air was too still. This time, they brought no tech, just a recorder and gloves. They crossed the lawn. The gate creaked open, the window groaned. Inside, the house was warm, the light in the hallway was on. Claire stepped forward, reached the mirror. She touched it. It was warm too. Movement, behind the glass. A hand, small, pale, not dirty, not trembling, just waiting. Claire's voice broke. It's her. The hand behind the glass didn't move. Claire spoke softly, gently, like one speaks to a skittish animal. I know you're there. My name is Claire. I'm not here to hurt you. A flicker, just the edge of a face. A girl, 11, maybe 12. Beth's eyes, Beth's nose, Beth's chin. But her expression wasn't fear. It was something deeper. Expectation, as if she'd been waiting. Thomas stepped forward, his voice low. We're here to help, he said. We've seen the pictures. We know what happened here. You don't have to stay. The girl blinked, slow, deliberate. Then she mouthed something. Claire leaned closer. What? The girl repeated it. He's still here. Claire's stomach dropped. Who? She whispered. But the girl stepped back, disappearing into the dark. The reflection vanished. Claire tapped on the glass, barely breathing. Please, wait. Nothing. Thomas turned toward the hallway. She's not just hiding, she's living in the walls. Claire examined the mirror frame, hands scanning the molding. Her fingers found a seam beneath the left edge. She pressed. A panel clicked open. Behind it, a wooden door, hand-built, small. The latch nearly rusted shut. Thomas pried it open. A staircase. They descended. The cellar was damp and cold, the air heavy with mildew. Claire flicked on her flashlight. The basement stretched far larger than expected. 20 by 30 feet. Reinforced walls, wooden beams, a bed in the corner, plastic tubs of clothing, a space heater. Someone had lived here. Thomas whispered, "This isn't abandoned." Claire stepped toward a shelf lined with notebooks and sketches. Crude pencil drawings filled every page. A girl in a dress, a woman tied to a chair, a man behind a camera, a hallway, a mirror, each one labeled in a child's handwriting. She flipped a page. Mama cries too loud. Another, I hide when he comes. Another still, he says I am the camera now. Then, a footstep, upstairs. Claire and Thomas froze. Another step, heavier. Claire turned off the flashlight. Darkness swallowed them. Silence, then a voice. Calm, low, male. You shouldn't have come back. Claire's blood went cold. I know who you are, the voice said. You touch my house, my things. You steal what's mine. A pause. Beth taught me how to spot your kind. Curious, hungry. You don't want truth. You want a story. Thomas mouthed, Go. Claire reached for her recorder, clicked it on. She tried to run once, the man continued. So did her daughter, but this house, it keeps them, like it keeps me. A beat of silence. She's mine. Then a door slammed. Footsteps, running, away. Thomas emerged first. He's leaving. Claire turned her flashlight back on, eyes scanning the room. No sign of the girl. Then, the mattress. Claire yanked back the blankets. A trap door, hidden. She opened it. A narrow tunnel. A ladder embedded into the concrete. She has another way out, Claire whispered. She's still alive. They didn't risk the stairs. They took the tunnel. It led beneath the fence, 2 blocks away, through the alley behind an abandoned house. They ran until their lungs burned. That night, Claire uploaded the audio. The voice, calm, possessive, chilling. She opened the last drawing. A girl behind a mirror, a woman in chains, a man with a camera, smiling. The next morning, Claire filed a report anonymously, using a burner laptop in a library. Suspected minor in danger, concealed within 428 Sycamore Street, born in captivity, immediate risk, audio attached. By midday, the Langley house was surrounded. From a hilltop, Claire watched. Police, CPS, a medical van, then the girl, wrapped in silver, barefoot, holding a small stuffed rabbit, hair matted, eyes wide, but alive. Claire didn't cry. She just exhaled. Later, on Thomas's porch, she said, "She looked like Beth." Thomas nodded. They found more. 3 rooms, cameras, journals, food stores, and a confinement room, burned mattress, chains. Claire turned pale. They think he raised her in total isolation. And Beth? Thomas hesitated. Blood in the farthest room, old, stained into the floor. Claire's eyes closed. She died down there. Thomas added, "Or worse." That night, Claire digitized every sketch, filed them in a folder. Witness, child of house, drawings of silence, of mimicry, of reenacted pain, a life-turned performance. She recorded Log 5, child rescued from Langley residence. Biological daughter of Beth Langley, confined since birth. Evidence confirms multi-room underground holding site. Audio, visual, and genetic materials submitted. Perpetrator still at large. Objective, locate Beth's final resting place. The next morning. A new encrypted message. Shuttered eyes 1973. You saw her, but not him. Basement wall, south corner, cabinet. Behind it, the originals. Claire didn't wait. She presented her press badge to a reluctant officer. "I'm not interfering," she said. "I'm helping." They let her in. The house no longer smelled of rot. It smelled of chemicals. A forensics crew was working. Yellow tape, plastic sheets. Claire descended into the basement, led detectives to the south wall, a cabinet, bolted to the cement. Behind it, a slit, a sealed box. Inside, dozens of negatives, photos of the Langleys, others, girls Claire had never seen, frames from decades, organized, labeled. And at the bottom, a Polaroid. Beth Langley, dead, face peaceful, hands folded, violets laid across her chest. A caption, "Final exhibit." The quietest she ever was. Claire held it. Shaking, closure, unwanted, but final. She left the house. The girl was in custody. No name, no statement, no trace of the man. But Beth was no longer just a file, and her daughter no longer lived in darkness. That night, Claire released her final podcast episode, The House in the Photograph. She didn't sensationalize. She told the truth. How a family vanished in 1971. How a photo reemerged in 2023. How a daughter born in silence had waited for someone to find her. By morning, the world was listening. 1 million downloads in 3 days. Claire ignored the skeptics, the doubters, the trolls. Truth doesn't come from ghosts. It comes from survivors. Authorities confirmed part of the case, a child, a bunker, a name, Beth Langley. No mention of captivity, No mention of the system, but Claire knew. Beth's daughter hadn't just been kept. She'd been taught, reenacted, posed, repeated, until photos became scripture. 2 weeks later, Claire met Agent Calder. The profiler said, "We don't think it was Dreyfus. We think it was someone who inherited the materials, the rituals." Claire nodded. "I found names, dates. This didn't end with the Langleys." Calder asked, "Would you consult?" Claire blinked. "Me? You saved her. You gave her time." Calder slid over a photo. Burned ID. Name, Wendy Stone. Disappeared 1985. "We think Beth was forced to care for her," Calder said. Claire's chest tightened. "So she wasn't alone?" Calder shook her head. "None of them were." That night, Claire sat on her balcony. She opened her notebook. She wrote names: Beth Langley, Clara, Sammy, Wendy Stone, Charlotte Lee, Leah Anton, Rachel Black, Eden Avery, and one more, the girl in the mirror. No name, but real. She recorded Log 6, names in the dark. The girl walks in daylight now, eats warm meals, smiles sometimes. But the rooms remain. The watcher is gone, but the network, still watching, and now we watch back. Epilogue. 2 months later, a therapy room. The girl sat in sunlight, coloring. She drew a house, a window. Through it, a woman reached in, a camera at her side, and on the other side, herself, reaching back. She wrote one word: found. Claire watched from behind a two-way mirror. "She's called Lily now," the therapist said. "It's not her real name, but she smiled when we said it." Claire nodded. "She's drawing more," the therapist added. "She asked for color yesterday." "She's finding who she was meant to be," Claire whispered. 3 weeks later, Claire received a package. No return address. Inside, a VHS tape, a pair of gloves, a Polaroid, the photo, a different house, boarded window, handprints inside, the tape, 1986, a woman in a chair, name, Wendy Stone. Claire took it straight to Calder. "They're still out there," she said. Calder nodded. "You're right. And now we have a location." Claire said, "I want to be involved." "You already are." That night, Claire recorded Log 7, exit frame. The girl from the cellar has a name now. She walks, she smiles, she draws in color. Beth Langley died beneath her home, but her daughter lived, and her voice, through sketches, through silence, told a story no photo could. This isn't the end. It's just the last frame of this reel. The projector spins on. The watchers are still out there, and now we watch them back. Post-credits. Lily sat quietly, drawing a sun, a house, blue shutters. Then, in the corner, a woman in gray, hollow eyes, watching. She wrote in careful script, "Miss July." Claire would see it the next day. She'd freeze, because in the archives one box had been labeled July Series, Initiation. Another child had drawn the same name. Miss July always smiles. The house stood silent, but never still.